Wringer Chapter 17. A pinch on his earlobe woke him. He opened one eye to find an orange button staring back at him. The pigeon was on his pillow, sounding like someone gargling water. Again, it nipped his earlobe. Ow! Palmer swiped, and the bird flew to the foot of the bed. I'm awake, okay? Palmer wondered if his old pair of earmuffs was still around. A knock at the door. His mother. Palmer! Yeah? He threw his blanket over the pigeon. Time to get up, dear. True to her word, she did not come in. Okay, I'm up. She went away. The blanket moved like a ghost over his bed. He pulled it back. With a gobble, the pigeon flew off to the comic book stack. Like the day before, it skidded off the top comic and onto the floor. This bird, thought Palmer, is either dumb, clumsy, or a comedian. Palmer dressed and went down for breakfast. This time he returned not only with frankenpuffs, but grape nuts as well. He spread the cereal on the snow outside his window. The pigeon did not have to be coaxed. It flew out the window and attacked the food. Over the next week, Palmer got better acquainted with the pigeon and adjusted his own life to take his new friend into account. From the library at school, he borrowed a book about pigeons. Actually, he sneaked it out. When it came to pigeons, he did not trust anyone in town, except maybe Dorothy Gruzik. It occurred to him that if he walked up to the front desk with a pigeon book in his hand, someone might see him, though certainly not Beans, who avoided the library like he avoided toothpaste. Or the librarian might look funny at him, or she might act nice and then as soon as he left report him to the authorities. So he slipped the book into his bag and walked out as innocent-looking as possible. He had it back on the shelf in 2 days. From the book, he learned that pigeons go to sleep as soon as the sun goes down. This was called roosting. He learned that it was okay to feed his pigeon cereal, but that outside on its own it would probably eat some gravel. The gravel goes into the gizzard and grinds the food as it comes down, since the pigeon has no teeth in its mouth to chew with. He learned that a pigeon isn't very fussy about what it eats because its tongue has only 37 taste buds. He learned that a pigeon's heart is about the size of an acorn, and that a pigeon's heart, as measured against the size of its body, is one of the largest hearts in creation. Palmer learned that in the wild, pigeons used to live in the nooks and crannies of high rocky cliffs. When they came to this country, they headed for the things that looked like high rocky cliffs to them, which happened to be the tall buildings and the skyscrapers. And that's why pigeons lived mostly in big cities. He read about the passenger pigeon, flocks of them numbered in the millions. So many were there that when they flew, they would block out the sun, and people below would have to light torches. And then people began to shoot them, even dynamite them. And by 1914, the last passenger pigeon was dead. There's something about pigeons, thought Palmer, that makes people want to shoot them. Whatever that thing was, he could not find it in the book. But he found much else. The book was 89 pages long, and this surprised Palmer. He never would have guessed that there were 89 pages worth of things to say about pigeons. But then, come to think of it, he himself could have written many pages about his own pigeon. And no question now, it was his. He could write about the pigeon tapping on the window every afternoon until he let it in, the pigeon strutting across the sill and onto his bed, then flying from spot to spot in the room, perching for a moment at every stop, as if to say, just making sure everything's as I left it. He could write about the pigeon banana peeling off the comic book stack and the clownish flop, Palmer finding his pigeon roosting in the closet every night after dinner. And the sounds. So many, so different. There were tootles and grumbles and rumbles and sighs and gobbles and giggles and even a woof. His new roommate was a one-bird band. He thought about a name. He thought about how the pigeon nipped his ear each morning. In fact, it was always nipping at something. The Nerf ball, the gray soldiers, book covers. So there it was. Nipper. And simply because Nipper sounded like a boy's name, it became he. Before long, a routine had developed. Wake up, the alarm clock being nips on the earlobes. Pretend to be groggy when Mom knocks with official wake-up call. Let Nipper out. Leave food on the porch roof. He'd bought a box of Honey Crunches, which he kept in his closet. He'd studied cereal boxes and found out that Honey Crunchers contained a lot of fat, and fat helps keep a pigeon warm in winter. Or so said the book. Clean room, leaving no evidence of his roommate. Go to school, or on weekends out to play. Act normal, return home, let Nipper in. Nipper walks up arm, stands on Palmer's head, feels good. Nipper checks out room. Nipper skids off comic book stack. Laugh. Play ball with Nipper. Nipper would perch on the basket rim while Palmer tossed in the Nerf ball shots. As the ball went by, Nipper nipped at it. Sometimes he caught it before it went through the net. Go to dinner. Return to find Nipper roosting. Do his homework. Read. TV. Go to the closet. Whisper, "Good night, Nipper," and go to bed. The hardest part of the routine came each day when he left the house. Acting normal. How was he supposed to act normal in a town that murdered pigeons?